begins on Christmas Eve with a little girl, Juliet, who thinks she hears Santa on the roof. She gets scared and runs to her mom, who gently reassures her and takes her back to bed, calming her fears. Later that night, she hears noises again and tiptoes downstairs, hoping to catch Santa leaving gifts under the tree. But instead of Santa, she finds a figure dressed like him. But something is very wrong. Realizing it's actually Art the clown, Juliet's excitement turns to fear as she sees him pull an axe from his bag, sending her running in terror and hiding. She hears the gory voices coming out of her brother's room, who is getting killed violently. Then the Terrifier goes to the parents' room and kills them too. He drinks the milk and cookies and proceeds towards the girl hiding under the sink. 5 years later, just after the second movie ended, you can find the link in description. Officer Evans finds Art's body the way it was left in the end. Suddenly he wakes up and borrows his head. Placing on it himself, he goes towards to spew Halloween terror. At the asylum, Vicky had previously given birth to Art's head. While they were feeding on the nurse, the guard discovers the scene and he is horrified. She gains her senses and pleads him to save her. She was possessed by an entity. However, she is again repossessed and continues what she was doing. They attack the guard as well. In the subway, they meet a guy who thinks they are cosplayers and clicks a photo of them. They both pose smiling sinister. Later, both Art and Vicky go to an abandoned house where he sits by the window and she goes to the bathroom and kills herself. Currently, Sienna is being released from a psychiatric ward, where her uncle Greg, Aunt Jess, who is her mother's sister, and their daughter Gabby have come to pick her up and take her with them since she has nowhere else to go. The little girl is overjoyed to have Sienna around, viewing her like an older sister. Although she is still dealing with her trauma of the part events, she frequently sees visions of people like her friend Brooke appearing as she did after Art's attack. In college, Jonathan is dealing with his irritating roommate Cole. His girlfriend Mia wants to meet him for her true crime podcast, eager to hear about his experiences related to Art's violence. Later, his sister Sienna calls him to let him know she's been released from the psychiatric ward. Meanwhile, 2 demolition workers discover the abandoned house. They find Art covered in cobwebs and Vicky decaying away in the bathtub. Both of them wake up and immediately attack the workers. Stabbing them and leaving a bloody scene, Art gathers murder tools and begins experimenting on a poor innocent rat. At home, Sienna tries to connect with her new family but struggles despite her medication. She spends time with Gabby, warning her not to read her journal entries, and bonds with Jess, who misses her sister. Art later arrives at a bar and encounters a man named Charlie dressed as Santa. He joins him and sits on his lap, making everyone uncomfortable, along with another customer, Smokey, and the bartender, Eddie. What starts as a fun night quickly turns dark when Art spits a drink in Charlie's face. Infuriated, he attempts to fight back. Her shoots Eddie in the neck and kills Smokey. He then ties Charlie to a chair while the man pleads for his life, using liquid nitrogen to freeze his arm and leg before shattering them. Finally, Art freezes Charlie's face and smashes it. Sienna accompanies Gabi to the mall, but becomes unsettled when she hears the Clown Cafe song and sees Art in a bloodied Santa mask, waving at her. She is getting visions from her past. Later, she meets Jonathan for a meal to reconnect, but their conversation is interrupted by Cole and Mia. He is his usual annoying self, and when Mia asks her about her podcast, Sienna snaps, expressing her frustration with how the murders are glorified, how podcasters use other people's pain to profit their content. Afterward, Sienna and Jonathan have a private argument. She insists she saw Art again, but he is skeptical and suggests they move on. She then mentions letters he wrote about the little pale girl and recalls their father's odd reaction to a drawing he gave her. Determined, she decides to return to the Terrifier to get the sword she used to defeat Art, believing it can kill him and Vicky for good. Later, Terrifier puts on Charlie's Santa costume and takes over as the mall Santa, giving out random gifts to kids. However, security quickly escorts him out due to his creepy behavior. Soon after, a little boy opens one of the packages, triggering a bomb that kills several people. When Sienna returns home, she discovers that Gabby has read her journal, despite her warning. She quickly denies the art-related entries. However, begins to panic upon seeing a news report about the mall bombing and hearing a witness describe Art's appearance. Concerned, Greg calls Jonathan for help, and he sets out to pick them. Meanwhile, at college, Cole and Mia discuss getting the siblings for their podcast. They express that they also want to experience his terror, and know what it feels like to encounter someone that twisted and evil. Art overhears them and decides to grant their wish. He follows them with a chainsaw, making sure she gets a good look of him, brutally murdering them and making an angel shape from their blood on the floor. Back at home, true horror begins. Sienna wakes up and hears Greg and Jess talking about how they don't want her in their house. Turns out it is Vicky pretending to be them. Both her and Art are in their house now. When she goes downstairs, she discovers her uncle has been killed in evil Art fashion. His head is proof. He ties Jess and Sienna to torture them. A tube is sent down her throat to force a rat down her belly. She begs Sienna to make both deranged, vile individuals suffer before she dies. Art brings Gabby out, who is frightened to death. He has Jonathan's glasses, insinuating that he has already killed him. Sienna screams in grief and anger. The entity tries to possess her too, but she is stronger than Vicky, causing them to believe that she might cave if they kill the little girl. Gabby asks them to let Sienna open her Christmas present before they offer. Vicky reluctantly agrees. Due to her injured hands thanks to the Terrifier, she painfully opens her gift and finds the angel sword that she quickly uses to attack Art. While this is happening, Vicky melts and her body opens a portal to hell, dragging the little girl inside. Abandoning her attack, Sienna tries to save her with the sword but fails, ending with both Gabby and the sword falling down. Soon, the portal closes. None of them, the Terrifier or his terrifying partner, are found, except for Sienna, who is left alone in pain and horror. She vows to save the innocent Gabby. In the end, we see Art boards a bus leaving town and sits near a woman who looks uneasy when he gives her a wide-eyed stare. Sensing her discomfort, the bus driver asks if she's all right. Art responds with a disturbing grin, pulls out his horn, and honks it loudly.